Together, we invite you to a webinar about Dr. Budwig's diet. Is it anti-cancer? Is it anti-disease? To begin with, I would like to take you to the beautiful Greek island Ikaria. I am dreaming of living there, but that is not why I'm showing it to you. Ikaria is one of those rare places on Earth where it's easy to become a centenarian, meaning 100-year-old, a healthy 100-year-old. And here I present to you Stamatis Moraitis, a near 100-year-old from Ikaria. He is very famous. He became famous because he cured his cancer many, many years earlier, even though his doctors were giving him only 9 months to live then. Instead of going to an American hospital, because he lived in the USA at the time, I think in Chicago, but I'm not sure right now, he left America and moved to the island of his ancestors, to Ikaria. And he lived there not for 9 months, as his doctors predicted, but about 40 years more, living to almost 100. In the BBC video, you can see the link to the video. And Peter, could you please write it to the chat just to make sure that you can just check it, because the video is really very interesting. The guy says, I have done nothing else but eat pure food, pure wine, pure herbs. If I go to a place where they don't have local wine, I take my own. He not only made his own wine without pesticides and sulfates, of course, but also his own olive oil. BBC filmed an interview with him while he was working in the olive garden. Here I want to present you these pure herbs that Stamatis talks about in the video. It's called horta, in our words, wild weeds. This is a traditional Greek dish based on wild herbs. It's extremely nutritious, excellent in an anti-cancer diet, which I will talk a lot about today. My presentations will take about 1 hour. I hope it will be not too much for you. And I will answer these questions. After these 6 questions, I will ask your questions. Since the topic is very broad and time is limited, I will stick closely to the presentation to avoid drifting off in another directions, which I'm very good at it. So let's go further. If you want more specific information about Dr. Budwig's diet, what its principles are, etc., I invite you to my online course. This webinar will be recorded. If you would like to get it, you can have this recording. Please leave us your email by clicking the link you see, and then we will email you the recording. I have also a gift prepared that I can send by email. I will tell you more at the end. So let's start asking my 6 questions. And that is the first question. Can diet really be medicine? Is it possible that the Icarian diet became the cure for Stamatis Moraitis? Let me remind you that he cured himself of cancer, lung cancer, without any treatment. When I say that a special diet can be a cure for epilepsy, it will probably sound controversial for some people. But it's true. There is a diet originally formulated only for that reason, to treat epilepsy. And to this day, it's so effective that it's used in people with so-called drug-resistant epilepsy, meaning epilepsy that doesn't respond to any pharmaceuticals, but does respond to the diet, this specific diet, which is, I don't know if you know, keto diet, ketogenic diet. It works better than pharmaceuticals in case of this drug-resistant epilepsy. Why does this fact that diet can cure disease surprise people? Because we don't think of food as medicine. And yet, it is a truth as old as medicine. I know that you know that ancient Greek physician Hippocrates, he was an ancestor of Stamatis Moraitis, used diet as a medicine, and he did it in a very scientific way for those times, which is why he's considered the father of modern medicine. He advised all the sick that let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. We know this recommendation very well, but we rarely follow it, right? Even though we know that many diseases depend on what we eat. So, even though modern medicine confirms most of the diseases that affect us are not genetic diseases, not dependent on genes, they are diet-related diseases. Diet-related, that is strongly dependent on food we eat. Hippocrates was the first to notice that. He's credited with another famous statement, death sits in the gut. Diet-related diseases may be caused by a harmful excess of a particular nutrient that reaches the guts, the intestines. For example, type 2 diabetes is a disease caused by excess sugar in the diet. But they can also be caused by a harmful deficiency of some important ingredient that is needed but does not reach the gut. For instance, zinc deficiency leads to decreased immunity, and when this happens, we get infections more often. But infections are only the tip of a huge iceberg called diet-related diseases. The group of diet-related diseases includes lots of other diseases, with the three most devastating diseases of the modern world, which are cardiovascular diseases with heart attacks and strokes, cancers, not just only the ones related to the digestive system, and of course, the type 2 diabetes. So, in medical practice, in hospitals, these diseases are not treated with diet. Then, as I will show you at the end of this presentation, in medicine, as a science, there is a full agreement that, according to Hippocrates' recommendation, those diet-related diseases can be prevented and even can be controlled by the right dietary changes. And in this context, the Icarian diet could have acted as a medicine for Stamatis Moraitis. because before he had been eating very unhealthy food, American style. Sorry, Małgosia, you know that.
Yep.
And you know also that when I left America, I got 15 kilograms more after 10 months of staying in America.
Yep.
This Western food usually contains too little zinc, too little selenium, too little vitamin C, and too much sugar, salt, and preservatives.
Mm-hmm.
These are typical deficiencies and excesses responsible for example, decreased immunity. And when immunity weakens, the body becomes susceptible not only to infections, but to all diet related diseases, including cancer. So, after moving to Icaria, Stamatis changed his diet completely. Instead of French fries, he began eating herbs in a so called horta. This certainly boosted his immunity and significantly contributed to fighting his cancer. Unfortunately, today, when our immunity weakens, instead of eating the right food, we immediately reach for supplements or medications. Instead of eating fruits rich in vitamin C, for example, we reach for tablets with synthetic vitamin C. We have completely unlearned how to use nutrition for healing. But our grandmothers could do it. And you, Małgosia, I know that you told me that your grandmother was specifically good at it and using food for healing. Most of us, however, no longer believe that vitamin C was in grandma's raspberry juice, that it's working better in this grandma's raspberry juice than the one from a tablet. So I would like to, I know that you all are rather confident in this healthy food, but let me tell you about an example of a very deadly disease that can still be spectacularly cured by the ordinary lemon. Not only effectively, but also very quickly in just a few days. It will be some historical stuff because I mean scurvy. It is a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency. Fatal if the harmful deficiency is not corrected in time. In ancient times, it plagued sailors because there was a shortage of fresh fruit and vegetables on ships. I don't know if you know that scurvy has killed more sailors than wars and storms combined. For example, most of Magellan's crew died of scurvy. After a long time, it was discovered that citrus fruits work as the cure, that they could cure scurvy in just 6 days. But can you imagine that half a century had to pass before citrus fruits began to be loaded onto ships? Why? Despite the discovery that citrus fruit cure scurvy, it took 50 years to get them onto ships. Why was scurvy allowed to kill sailors for another 50 years? Well, because the enlightened minds of the 18th century, including the discoverer himself, could not believe in two things. The first, that the cause of scurvy is food, and the second, that the medicine can be made from food. Okay, so let me summarize this first part. What I wanted to tell you is that diet can cause many diet-related diseases due to two reasons: harmful deficiencies or harmful excesses. And if so, diet can be also an effective treatment for diet-related diseases if this diet counteracts harmful deficiencies or counteracts harmful excesses. And here we go to the second question of mine. What diet is best for most diseases? Which one can be used by people suffering from any diet-related disease? Not only scurvy, not only epilepsy, but also from diabetes, cancer, circulatory diseases, etc. And you know how many people, so many opinions. Some people consider the keto diet to be the best. The one that I told you was designed for epilepsy. Others consider a vegan diet to be the best. Both groups claim that their diet is good for everything, from obesity to diabetes, from cancer to heart attacks. But how is this possible when these are such completely different diets? In keto, a lot of meat and eggs. In vegan, no meat or eggs at all. Well, they might help sometimes. Keto has very limited sugar amounts, and that is helpful in epilepsy or diabetes. Vegan has very limited saturated fats, and that is helpful in cardiovascular diseases. But they are not the best diets for everyone in every situation, because both have significant harmful deficiencies and harmful excesses. For instance, here are the common deficiencies and excesses of the keto diet. The average ketogenic diet often lacks, for example, various vitamins with pH. Vitamins are health-promoting substances produced only by plants. They are also called phytochemicals, and they are getting more and more recognition in science research for many, many reasons. One of them is a healthy microbiome, the foundation of our health. I remind you that Hippocrates said that death sits in the gut. Okay, what about harmful excesses of an average ketogenic diet? In the long run, the keto diet is not good for your guts, kidneys, liver, and heart because of these excesses of proteins, saturated fats, and many, many toxins. In turn, in the average vegan diet, there are plenty of healthy promoting vitamins, for instance, anti-cancer and anti-heart attack ones, but very often there is a lack of vitamin B12, iron, or zinc. The average vegan diet can also have very harmful excess of agricultural toxins, mainly pesticides, if vegans do not eat only organic food. Here I'm showing you a 2022 study that found that the urine of people who eat non-organic foods contains 10 times more pesticides than the urine of people who eat organic foods. 10 times more. And because pesticides accumulate, constantly eating non-organic plants is like a ticking time bomb. And here I would like you, baby, to include this link to this study if you would like to check if that's true. Okay, and here is the Stamatis Moraitis diet. It is called the Mediterranean diet. Uh, did you know that there are official rankings of healthy diets? And for years, the Mediterranean diet has been awarded the first place. It is widely considered by researchers to be the healthiest diet in the world. But I have to tell you that I do believe the Mediterranean diet is ideal, but only the one used by Stamatis Moraitis. I mean, the traditional Mediterranean diet, the one that is based on natural, local, toxin-free, no pesticides, no preservatives, and seasonal products, which makes the diet incredibly diverse. So, when dandelion season comes in Icaria, dandelions are eaten in the horta, and they bring the powerful cocktail of anti-cancer vitamins into it. But when pumpkin blossoms are eaten, bringing a different set of vitamins known for supporting antioxidant defenses and cellular resilience. So those pure herbs in Stamatis' horta meal are never the same. In traditional Mediterranean cuisine, the menu is dictated by nature. Nobody eats anything there all the time just because they like it or because it's cheap. Contemporary Mediterranean cuisine, I have problem with this word. However, it is based on the same products from the supermarket all the time. And that is why it's not ideal. That's why I don't consider it the best for health. For me, the best diet is the one that perfectly fulfills its nutritional role for everybody, meaning it is beneficial in both epilepsy, diabetes, in heart attacks, strokes, cancer, and many, many other diet-related diseases. So to do so, it must be nutritious and well-balanced, rich in diverse and colorful plants. I will not tell too much about that because I think you are familiar with these healthy rules. It should be also toxin-free, this best diet, and of course, tasty for everyone, meaning that it's easy to prepare meals that are suited to every taste because the best diet has to be easy to follow. And as you guess, for me, the best diet is Dr. Budwig's diet, sometimes called oil protein diet or Dr. Budwig's protocol. Dr. Budwig diet meets all the important four criteria for the best diet, plus it has an advantage not found in other diets. It is the only diet in the world that I know that solves the problem with fat, meaning the problem with dietary fat. I will call it briefly fat problem, but please have in mind that it is not about the obesity problem. It's about the root cause, the type of fat in food we eat. This is a huge problem. So here is my third question. How did Dr. Budwig discover that diseases are related to fats in the diet? To explain that, let me tell you a little about Dr. Budwig herself, her research, and also some brief facts about dietary fats and mitochondria, a very hot medical topic these days. Dr. Budwig, this is the picture drawn by Eva, my medium daughter. Dr. Budwig was not a doctor, but a pharmacist, not an average pharmacist. The title doctor at her name is an academic title, PhD, as she was a scientist pharmacist. She lived to the age of 94 in complete psychophysical health. She died not from a diet-related disease, but from complications following a fracture. If not that accident, I think she would probably be another 100-year-old person. Being a scientist, she was dealing a lot with pharmaceutical chemistry and physics, working in a research institute where fats were analyzed. Why, of all the chemical substances, was she mostly interested in the fats? Until the discoveries made by Dr. Budwig in the 50s, it was known that fats are made of building blocks that we call fatty acids. Fats dissolve vitamins A, D, E, K. That is why full fat milk has more of these vitamins than skim milk. And fats are fuel. And as a fuel, provide us with more energy than sugars and proteins. Therefore, in order to maintain a slim figure, it was proposed to severely limit them in the diet. But when I was in States and got this extra 15 kilograms, I was using skim products. Let's go back to these fats in a nutshell, because until 1950s, there was also one thing known about fats, very important. Scientists who, like Dr. Budwig, researched fats knew that certain fatty acids were essential for life. Certain, not all. It has been discovered that these essential nutrients are, among others, in flaxseed oil. No one knew what processes they were necessary for exactly, or what exactly they did. They were not yet called omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. However, it has been noticed that without them, we are not healthy, and that without them, we become apathetic, lethargic. But when we are healthy, we are not apathetic or lethargic. We may not be as cheerful as this lady, but we feel motivated, we feel energized. Where do we get this energy for smiling, jumping, creating from? Humans do not have one central power plant. We draw our energy from billions of mini power plants. I've marked them in red here in these cells. Oh, here, here, here. Oh, gosh. Here. Okay. They are scattered throughout all cells, muscle cells, nerve cells, bone cells, etc. We call these mini power plants mitochondria. One mitochondrium, two mitochondria. Some types of cells have a few mini power plants inside them, while others have thousands. It depends on how much energy they need. The biggest amounts of mini power plants by a cell are found in heart muscle cells, which shouldn't surprise anyone. After all, heart cells work non-stop, day and night, throughout our lives without rest, even when we sleep. Every mitochondrion, every mini cellular power plant works the same way, based on the principle of oxidation. Roughly speaking, a bit like a furnace. So it needs fuel, for instance, glucose or fat, oxygen, which enables the combustion of fuel, and the right spark, one that will trigger an efficient combustion process. Efficient, meaning with a lot of fire, a lot of energy for the body, and with only a small amount of smoke, which I mean free radicals, small amounts of free radicals. I would like to illustrate this with such a metaphor. I think anyone who has ever lit a fire will understand what I'm talking about. The bonfire should burn with a lively, energetic fire and not smolder lazily, smoking out everyone around. We don't want this kind of fire in our mitochondria, because then we have little energy and a lot of toxin. So when mitochondrial combustion malfunctions, cells become smoky and begin to suffer from energy deprivation, sometimes very seriously. For example, they lose control of their growth and thus become cancerous. Already 100 years ago, Nobel Prize winner, German, Professor Otto Warburg, noticed that cancer cells, although they have access to both oxygen and fuel, instead of burning this fuel in mitochondria and obtain 100% of the possible energy from it, they go into emergency mode and obtain only 5 to 10% of this energy. 5 to 10% instead of 100%. It is as if they lack the right spark to initiate the proper combustion, and so finding this way to ignite the proper combustion, finding this spark, has become a challenge for many scientists, mainly also those who were looking for a cure for cancer. And the first person who, according to my knowledge, discovered this spark that can improve the combustion in the mitochondria, this first person was Dr. Johanna Budwig. This happened because she was the first scientist to develop a method for testing fats in a drop of blood. Thanks to this, she observed that all cancer patients are deficient of certain fatty acids in the blood. Today, those fats are called omega-3. And these omega-3 fatty acids, turned out to be the right spark that is missing in the mitochondria of cancer cells. But that wasn't all Dr. Budwig discovered. Following this missing spark like a thread, Dr. Budwig came upon a huge tangle of problems. It became clear to her that all diet-related degenerative diseases, not only cancers, but also diabetes, atherosclerosis, metabolic syndrome, immune disorders, rheumatism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, depression, and even infertility share a common feature. That is fat. And so Dr. Budwig called this problem directly the fat problem. The fat problem did not exist when Stamatis was a child. Those times, all edible fats were obtained in very natural processes. Oil seeds were pressed in mechanical presses, and cream was whipped into butter in a churn. This is this thing. This. The fat problem appeared only after World War II as a result of industrialization. Then natural food began to be rapidly replaced by industrially produced food. Sorry for my English pronunciation. Industrial production has made food readily available and cheap. Unfortunately, this cheap factory food has become poorer in nutrients. And there were fats that suffered the most during these industrial processes, especially omega-3 fatty acids, those that act as the right spark for healthy mitochondria. Why do omega-3 fatty acids suffer the most during industrial food processing? Because omega-3s are the most reactive of all fats. After all, it is not without reason that they are a spark for mitochondria. They are capable of igniting mini power plants already at body temperature, less than 37 degrees Celsius, about 98 Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, the food industry heats them to very high temperatures, well above 100 degrees Celsius, much more than 200 Fahrenheit. And that all happens in full contact with oxygen. This means that the bottles end up with completely oxidized, meaning burnt out sparks, completely destroyed. Oh, sorry for this picture. It should be rotated, but okay, let's leave it. So these burnt sparks, they are no longer suitable for igniting mitochondrial processes. And not only that, they are also becoming very toxic. Both the oxidized ones, meaning burnt ones, and also the hydrogenated ones, the so-called trans fatty acids. Trans fatty acids are toxic on many levels. Not only do they prevent mitochondria from oxidation, but they also harm many other processes. The list of harmful effects is long. I will mention just one. They block nerve conduction, which reduces memory and mental abilities in both children and adults. Most mass-produced cooking oils contain toxic fats. This also applies to products that contain these oils. This includes mass-produced mayonnaise, cakes, cookies, chocolates, chips. These are also ready-made products for the Mediterranean diet. Bolognese sauces, pestos. No matter how many of them we eat, they won't give us the spark to ignite our mitochondria. It's spoiled with the temperature. Worse still, if they contain trans fats, they will be harmful in every aspect of health. For example, by lowering our intelligence. You must know that the fat problem is much more complex. It is not only about the lack of the right spark, meaning lack of omega-3 fatty acids, and not only about toxic fats, natural production, it also involves an excess of omega-6 fatty acids in relation to omega-3s. I will not go very deeply into details. You may have already heard that the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is important in a healthy diet. It is believed that omega-6 fatty acids should be less than 5 times as much as omega-3 fatty acids. So here we have one part of omega-3 that we get in the diet. And if this must be a healthy diet, we shouldn't have 5 times more of omega-6 in this daily diet. So let's say we take 2 grams of omega-3, and then we shouldn't have more than 10 grams of omega-6 in the diet to be still in this healthy range. Many scientists say that the best ratio for health is 3 to 1. So if we take 2 grams of omega-6 in our diet, then 6 grams of omega-6 should be maximum. But there are also those who say that 1 to 1 is even better, because that kind of diet was our ancestor diet during the hunter-gatherer period. Some of people then can say, so we need to go back to the hunter-gatherer diet, like keto or paleo diet. Well, I don't think so. Everything that comes from industrial production has an unfavorable ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. Dairy and meat from industrial farms too, because in industrial farms, animals are fed artificial feed, the one produced in a factory. So it contains toxic fats. This was not the case in Stamatis' childhood, because animals were fed natural then. Cows grazed on green meadows, and the chickens were looking for food in open yards, not in cages. Their daily menu included both pure grains, pure worms and insects, and pure herbs, saying in Stamatis language. Industrial animal farming has caused the fat problem to affect meat, cheese, and eggs. So by eating not organic meat and not organic dairy products, we load ourselves with huge amounts of omega-6 and almost none of omega-3. Therefore, the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in a typical Western diet is, note, 15 to 1, 20 to 1, and in a drug cases, when someone eats only high processed food, this ratio can reach up to 50 to 1. That is 50 times more omega-6 than omega-3. And let me remind you that there should be no more than 5 to 1. The important thing is omega-6 are healthy and essential. They are not toxic by themselves. This amount is needed, but such a high excess of omega-6 in relation to omega-3, that is very, very harmful to our health. It is responsible for the lion's share of the fat problem in the modern nutrition. Today, excess of omega-6 is common even in this modern Mediterranean diet, not the ideal one used by Stamatis Moraitis, where wild herbs and local cheeses are still eaten, but in this modern one, which is based on products made for supermarkets. This complex fat problem does two very harmful things. First of all, that's what I have already talked about, but I will repeat. The lack of the proper omega-3 spark and a large amount of toxic fats result in the improper functioning of the mitochondria of each cell. And that makes heart cells, brain cells, thyroid cells having too less energy, too little energy. It manifests itself in reduced energy of each of these organs, and it leads to various disorders and diseases. I haven't mentioned the second damage yet. Well, excessive omega-6 causes destructive fires in the body, meaning unnecessary inflammations. If the diet provides excess of omega-6 on a regular daily basis, inflammations become chronic and spread throughout the body. Chronic inflammations are like fires, cause damage in the places where they arise. They thus cause further serious diseases, skin inflammations, joint inflammations, nerve inflammations, digestive, respiratory, circulatory, etc., etc. And unlike Stamatis, unfortunately, we are exposed to these chronic inflammations from birth, because the problem of fat is common and also affects pregnant women. This means that serious deficiencies of omega-3 and serious excesses of omega-6 may occur already in utero. And this greatly disrupts development, first of the fetus, then of a small child, and then of an adult. Because if someone has a diet deficient in omega-3 and excessive in omega-6 since birth, and nothing changes in his nutrition habits, these deficiencies or excesses will rapidly grow, causing diet-related diseases at an increasingly earlier age. And unfortunately, this is the situation that scientists observe today. Younger and younger people are suffering from diseases that were once thought to be degenerated diseases, meaning typical only for the elderly people, like heart diseases or cancers. The fat problem is real and very common, affecting everyone who eats unhealthy processed food. But the good thing is that it can be remedied with Dr. Budwig's diet, which, as you already know, in my opinion, is the best diet in the world for this very reason. And that's why I took on this mission, promoting knowledge about Dr. Budwig's diet. So here is my fourth question. How did she solve the fat problem? What's the time? Oh my gosh, I'm talking for an hour. I hope I will. Okay, I should be a little bit faster. Okay. The strategy, the strategy Dr. Budwig chose to solve the fat problem in her seriously ill patient was and is brilliant, in my opinion. It is simple and accessible to everyone. Uh, Of course, her diet fulfills all the body needs that we have already talked about. Uh, Plus, additionally, it is composed in such a way that it strongly limits excess omega 6 and at the same time strongly strengthens deficient omega 3. This tactic, after some time, restores the body proper omega 6 to omega 3 ratio, and with it, miracles happen in every cell. How did Dr. Budwig ensure this? He just used flaxseed oil and mixed it with quark proteins. This mixture is crucial to igniting mitochondria in the right way. I will not go into the theory of that. I will only tell you that this mixture is called Dr. Budwig's cream. And I will only explain why Dr. Budwig used for this mixture flaxseed oil and not, for example, olive oil. Because although various experts now convince us that we should eat fish because of omega-3 fatty acids, it's not fish that are richest in omega-3 fatty acids. The richest food in omega-3 of all is flaxseed, not fish, not walnuts, not olives, which are not shown in the graphic because they contain almost no omega-3. Flaxseed oil contains approximately 18% of omega-6 and about 54% of omega-3 fatty acids. No other dietary fat, natural of course, has more of omega-3 than flaxseed oil. And what is extremely important, no other dietary fat has such a low ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, 1 to 3. This is a proportion that guarantees a beneficial living fire in the mitochondria and can stop all unnecessary fires outside the mitochondria. Of course, the body needs some time eating this diet to restore this proportion, but Uh, that is the tactic of solving the fat problem. And that's why I consider Dr. Budwig's diet healthier than the Mediterranean diet. Of course, Dr. Budwig didn't call her diet the Dr. Budwig diet. She called it biological therapy. She targeted the disease causing problems of fat and mostly dealt with people having cancer. And she publicly declared that her diet had a 90% success rate against cancer. She was a doctor of pharmacy, PhD. Surely she knew what she was talking about. Okay, let's move. Time for my fifth question. Is Dr. Budwig's diet anti-cancer then? From the current scientific point of view, no, it's not. Scientists don't consider it to be an anti-cancer diet, and so doctors do not recommend it for cancer patients. Why no? You might be confused now because I have just told you about Dr. Budwig solving the fat problem that underlies many disease processes, those related to mitochondria and those related to chronic inflammations. Scientists agree now that the fat molecules are the key in cancer and other diseases, including diabetes. But why Dr. Budwig's diet is not officially recommended? Because there is no research. Seriously, oncologists' main argument against Dr. Budwig's diet is the lack of research. There is no research on this diet. How is this possible? A doctor of pharmacy publicly declared in the 50s that she could cure 90% of cancer patients using a mixture of flaxseed oil and quark, zero costs compared to chemotherapy, zero side effects. And absolutely no research center undertakes research. To explain how this is possible, I will outline the broader context very generally, because I don't want to get too emotional. So first, system inertia. Do you remember that it took 50 years to introduce citrus fruits onto ships after discovering that they are a cure for scurvy? A century. At that time, even though the medicine was already known, I mean the drug, the lemon, sailors were still dying. Scientists of that time, within the framework of the scientific system of that time, questioned the sense of lemon therapy as too primitive. So, changing paradigms. To officially recognize lemon treatment, there had to be a change of paradigms in science. That is, changing established beliefs that are taken for granted. Such change doesn't come overnight. To bring about such a revolution in the thinking of scientists, a new theory is needed that the majority will agree on. In the 18th century, scientists had no idea that vitamin C was essential. They believed that scurvy was caused by moisture and required some sophisticated elixirs. 3. Conflict of interest. Changes in medicine take a long time, not only because of the lack of theory or the inertia of the system, but also due to conflict of interest. When Dr. Budwig noticed the fat problem, she immediately identified the reason: toxic fats, highly processed fats found in margarine and margarine based products, for example. And already in the 1950s, she called for their prohibition. This immediately sparked resistance from the very wealthy and influential oil industry. Ostracism. As a result of this conflict, Dr. Budwig became persona non grata. So she was excluded from the scientific community. She lost her job, both as a researcher at the university and as an inspector at the German office responsible for pharmaceutical drugs registrations. She worked there. She immediately stopped being cited in scientific publications, and thus her discoveries became invisible to other scientists. But sooner or later, progress in science is inevitable and it cannot be stopped, luckily. Therefore, in the following years, other scientists came to similar conclusions as she did. For example, it has been confirmed that trans fats from margarine are very toxic. And there was the first brave country that introduced changes in line with Dr. Budwig goals. This first country was Denmark. It ordered a reduction in the amount of trans fats in food. Listen, it was only in 2003, exactly the year of Dr. Budwig's death. So, about 50 years after her first calls to ban toxic fats. The entire European Union introduced this ban only in 2019, and the USA in 2020. That is 70 years after Dr. Budwig's first called for it. Let me make only one small digression, just one. Sometimes in discussions about healthy or unhealthy food, someone will say that if something were unhealthy, government institutions would have banned it long, long ago. As you can see, not necessarily. Even in your country, Sonia, in Germany, the country that for me is famous for its Ordnung attitude, a scientist can be silenced and large companies can be allowed to make a fortune on products containing harmful trans fats for almost 70 years. Regardless of the fact that the amount of these harmful substances in food has been increasing over these 70 years, year after year, and has caused an enormous health damage to society, children and adults. So why is Dr. Budwig's diet not officially not recommended? I'm deeply disturbed by the fact that for 70 years, no scientist has investigated the effectiveness of Dr. Budwig's strict diet. No research center has addressed this issue. That is why this diet is still considered to this day to be unproven, scientifically unconfirmed. So many people have concerns, for instance, about enough proteins, enough iron, enough vitamin B12, as this strict Budwig diet prohibits meat. These fears, however, are completely unfounded. When I created a nutritional complete meal plan for my Budwig strict diet course, I had no problem with ensuring enough of protein, enough of iron, enough of vitamin B12, even though the menu didn't include meat. And you know what? It's very good that there is no meat there, because meat is now officially recognized as a very problematic food. As a proof, I will show you how Dr. Budwig's diet compares to the official anti-cancer diet recommendations, which is my last question of this presentation. Here they are, current scientific recommendations respected by doctors and dietitians around the world. Here are 10 main recommendations. I am not sure if you can see them. I will read them. The first two are about lifestyle. Be a healthy weight. Be physically active. Next, we have strictly dietary recommendations. I will read them in order. Eat whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans. I wanted to remind you that we talked about anti-disease plant vitamins. Limit fast food and other processed food, high in fat, toxic fat, starch, and sugars. Limit red and processed meat. Limit sweetened drinks. Limit alcohol consumption. Do not use dietary supplements for cancer prevention. This is a very interesting thing. Dr. Budwig also had this rule included. And the last two recommendations concern mothers to breastfeed if possible, and cancer patients to follow all these recommendations after diagnosis, if possible, of course. Scientists also remind us that to reduce the risk of cancer, it's also important to avoid smoking and stay safe in the sun. According to scientists, following these recommendations can help avoid about 40% of cancer cases. Some sources say up to 50%. Moreover, if the disease develops, following these recommendations reduces the risk of death and improves the quality of life. Therefore, these recommendations are not only for preventive purposes. Anyone with cancer can follow these recommendations to reduce their risk of death and improve their quality of life. And here I remind you Stamatis Moraitis. His case perfectly illustrates that even a person given only 9 months to live by his doctors, by following these principles, can postpone the risk of death for many, many years and live a normal life during those years. I encourage you to watch the BBC film. You will see there that he, almost 100-year-old man, was climbing a ladder while caring for his olive trees. It was filmed in his last year. I will tell you even more. Following these recommendations not only reduces the risk of cancer, but may also reduce the risk of other health conditions, such as heart disease and diabetes. This is what scientists say. And now the important thing. Dr. Budwig's diet follows all these recommendations, all of them, 100%. And in these four, these three, I can see where is and these. Yeah. In these four, She is even, she goes even farther because she was uncompromising. She created her diet primarily for people who were already ill, not those simply trying to avoid illness. So, in order to save lives of ill, instead of recommended limit harmful foods, she recommended complete bans because her intention was to achieve maximum results. Her intention was to save the ill, not just improve the quality of life for a moment. As you heard earlier, she publicly claimed that her biological method achieves not 40%, but 90% effectiveness. I deeply believe in this because in her prescription for this dietary method, she provided a specific solution to the problem of fat. This solution is still missing from these modern scientific recommendations. Does this mean that a patient with advanced cancer should, like Stamatis Moraitis, reject hospital treatment and focus solely on diet? I absolutely do not encourage to do this. I'm not a doctor, I believe that any treatment should be consulted with a doctor and preferably not just one doctor's. I encourage to consult 3 doctors. However, I also think that regardless of what therapy is agreed upon with your doctor or doctors, you have to insist on the healthiest diet possible, according to these recommendations that you see, covering both nutrition and other lifestyle elements. And here is an interesting fact not everyone knows. The word diet comes from Greek and means an entire lifestyle, not just nutrition. And what is the price? Dr. Budwig diet is more than just nutrition. It gives you important lifestyle tips to help your body get the most energy for the healing process. Ta-da! That's the end. All I wanted to tell you. To finish it right, I must warn you. First of all, I just said I'm not a doctor. I want to emphasize that again. My tongue is tangled. I have no medical training whatsoever. From the perspective of any doctor, not just an oncologist, I am a complete layman. Secondly, I want to emphasize again that there are no studies on this diet. That regarding this 90% success rate, I'm simply quoting Dr. Budwig. I personally believe she provided a true cure rate. So I will not make too big marketing for my online course. Let's go to webinar recording. So if you would like, you will get it, of course. Just let me know. And you will also get my gift if you want. This is a small PDF document with 3 Budwig tips that are very easy to follow. They are practical, cheap, and potential to improve your diet immediately from now on. They do not require any revolution, and they are within reach of everyone on any diet. And they work. They work. I promise you, if you try one of them, you can pick whichever of them and start for like 2 weeks. I'm sure you will notice the change. Then you can go to another one. I will be very happy to hear from you then. You know how to contact me. I wanted to tell you that I have a post about Stamatis Moraitis on my blog. It's in Polish, but you can use Google Translate and it will help you read it. It's quite interesting because it covers the very important topic on attitude as the important, crucial factor that affects any treatment, cancer treatment among that.